So, what SAT or ACT test score do you need to get into college? That's exactly what I'm going to talk about in this video. So, let's say you've checked the following tasks off your list recently. So, you decided between taking the digital SAT and the ACT, and then you know what your diagnostic test scores are, and you have a general sense of like which colleges you'd be applying to. Like, awesome, right? It's time to just like jump in and start studying for your test of choice, right? Wrong. So, before you begin what is likely the marathon of test prep, it is crucial that you get a firm grasp of what your specific studying goal or testing goal is. So, to continue with like this marathon metaphor for a moment here, you need a finish line, right? So that you know when the end is near. And when you've finished the giant project that is, the SAT or the ACT, and so you can move on to other things, whether that's starting your college application essays, studying for finals, doing coursework, or just prepping for your spring piano recital. Okay. So, what type of finish line applies to test prep? Well, it's not test day, as many of my students initially think before we start working together. Instead, you need something that you aim for, right? Something that gives you the ability to pace yourself. You need something clear, concrete, and objective. In short, you need what I call a target score. And after watching this video, you will know exactly how to find yours. If you're just tuning in, my name is Kristina of Ivy Lounge Test Prep, and for the past 15 years, I've helped high schoolers like you all around the globe dramatically raise their SAT and ACT test scores, write compelling college application essays, and ultimately land a spot at their dream college or university. So the first question we need to ask ourselves is like, why should I find my target score in the first place? So many students, parents, other test prep companies out there subscribe to the idea that like more or higher is always better. But a perfect score does not guarantee an acceptance letter to your dream school at the end of the day. Okay. Hundreds, if not thousands, of perfect 1600s and perfect 36s on the ACT get rejected from top schools, right? In contrast, now I've helped students get early admittance to Ivies with an ACT of only a 29. It's rare, but it has happened, right? So as a test prep professional for over 15 years now, I prioritize efficiency. So working smarter, not harder, right, is what I like to do because it makes the best use of your time. And if you're working with me one-on-one, it makes the best use of my time as well. And more than that, it helps you keep sane and your parents to stay sane during these very busy years of test prep and applying to college. The truth is that you don't actually need to be perfect in order to get into your dream school. But what you do need to do is you need to hit just above a certain threshold so that you're in the window of scores that are acceptable to your college list. Basically, what you need to do is secure a score on the ACT or SAT that opens the door to your dream school so that then the rest of your application can do the talking, right? And get you in. And this threshold that I'm talking about is what we call our target score. So additionally, when you know your target score, it's going to make your junior and your senior years way more psychologically and emotionally tolerable. Let's be honest here, test prep can be grueling. But do you know what's even like more grueling? Is driving yourself nuts with goals that are too high. And if you don't have a target score, and I'm looking at you, I know that you secretly think perfect is your target score, then you have a goal that perhaps is too high for what you need. And psychologically, it's a lose-lose situation. Because if you have a goal that you subconsciously think you're never going to attain, then you're probably going to give up and not really commit to the process. Am I right? On the other hand, if you figure out an appropriate target SAT or ACT score for you to aim for and have that be your goalpost, then you may actually discover that you're much closer to it than you think. Right? And that you could actually get into your dream school with maybe not as much work as you originally thought. Now, that's the opposite of deflating. That's actually a big motivator for like pretty much all of my one-on-one tutoring students. And let's say your diagnostic test scores or your past test scores are like farther from this target score than you hoped. Guess what? It's okay because at least now we have the information we need to create a plan to bridge the gap from where you are now to where we want you to be to open the door to your dream schools. So I bet what you're thinking right now is, yeah, I'm with you so far, Kristina. And that makes sense that I might need this thing you call a target score, but how am I going to figure out what mine should be, right? Other than the default one of 1600 or 36, right? So stay with me because I'm going to show you exactly how you do this. Before I show you how to find your target score, I have a question for you, and that is, what score do you think you need to get into your dream school? Either SAT version or ACT version. Let me know in the comments below because I'm curious. And also, while you're at it, just go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. And then that way, you'll always be the first to know when I drop my latest video every week of SAT, ACT, and college application tips, tricks, and updates. So here's how you actually calculate your target score. It's a simple process of 4 easy steps. So the first step, you are going to draft a list of all the colleges and universities that you are likely to apply to. If you haven't already done that, yes, that might take some time to research, but even if you have a list of 5 or more schools, that can very much so help you with this process. Now, number 2 is going to be the one that might take the most work. You are going to actually roll up your sleeves and do some research, okay? So you can go to collegeboard.com. You could go to each individual school on your list's own website. You could go to the FISC Guide for Colleges if you wanted to. There's a physical book of that. They also have a website. You could go to collegedata.com. Any of these are good sources for you. And what you are looking for in particular is information that says like median SAT scores or median ACT scores. It might even say mid-range test scores. It could even say 25 to 75 percentile test scores. Any of those terms is what we're looking for. So you're going to find that for every school on your list, and you are going to write down those ranges. So this brings me to the third step, which is you're writing down the score ranges that you're finding in your research. So these are typically meant to mean the middle 50% of the students who were admitted to that college's freshman year class. Now, what that means is 25% or a fourth of the admitted freshmen actually scored below that range, and it means that approximately a fourth or 25% scored above that range. Okay? So now we're on to the fourth step, which is once you have completed your research, you're going to look at all the ranges on top of each other. I like to write them in a list form so I can just scan up and down, okay? And your goal is to determine what is the lowest SAT or ACT score that will fit within each school's range or above it. And it might be that for one of your schools, maybe you've got a more selective school that you're just trying to get in the range for that. But if you got that score, it would be in the middle of another school's range or even above another school's range. So we're looking for what is that score? What is that threshold number? And that, my friends, is your target score. So now I am going to share my screen and I am going to show you an example. Okay. So this is taken from one of my Ace the Test game plan reports from one of my one-on-one students. I took it out of context as to not show you the rest of the report and to keep this person's information private. So this particular student came to our Ace the Test game plan with 6 different schools that he was considering, okay? And so I did the research for him and his parents. And so if you look, Emory, this is the score range. The SAT was this person's test, so this is why I am dealing with SAT score ranges, but it would work the same way if you were doing the ACT, okay? So this would be the median 50th percentile score range for Emory. So that would mean a fourth of the students for the incoming freshman class scored lower than a 1470. A fourth of the students scored higher than a 1540, but the 50% in the middle, or half the students that are in the middle, scored between a 1470 and a 1540, okay? Then there's University of Florida. That range was 1320 to 1470. Georgia was 1230 to 1410. UNC Chapel Hill, which for this person's graduating class was test optional with a weighted GPA of 2.8 or higher that I'm pretty sure my student is going to achieve. That said, even if some school is test optional, if you score within or above the range, you still want to submit to them because it's an extra piece of evidence showing them that you're academically ready for their school, okay? USC was on the list. That's 1460 to 1540. And then UT Austin was on the list, and that is a 1230 to a 1500 is their mid-range SAT score. Okay. I also do other research for my students where I say, well, do I have to get like this 1320 in one sitting, or can I super score to get to it? So for all of this students' schools, you could super score to it. The only one you could not is UT Austin. So for that one, you really do need to be above this 1230, preferably higher than that. But you have to do it in one test sitting. And all of the students' schools allow for score choice, meaning that you can take the test as many times as you want, and then you only submit the scores you want them to see. So you're allowed to not submit a score if in fact you bombed one. So for this student's score ranges, I'm looking for the smallest number that fits in or above the range. So, okay, it's this 1470. So just off the top, Emory, just to get in Emory's range is a 1470. A 1470 would get us at the top of this U Florida's range. It would be above U Georgia's range. It would be towards the top of UNC Chapel Hill's range. It would be within, on the lower end, but within USC's range. And it would be on the upper part of UT Austin's range. So a 1470 in this case would be this student's target score. This is why this is amazing. The student does not have to aim for a 1600. The student does not have to drive himself crazy trying to get every single question right. We just aim for a 1470. Many of my students often surpass this, and then test prep is done. So awesome. So hopefully you can do this and you can find your target score too. And the best part is that once you have figured out your target score, studying gets infinitely easier, right? Because you know exactly how far you need to improve. And what's even better than that, with your goal score, like objectively and clearly in mind, you can ignore all these bonkers recommendations that you may hear from like some of your friends at school, or their parents or other professionals about taking the test again and again and again for just one more point or just 10 more points, right? When you're done, you can confidently rejoice and cancel any further test dates that you have registered for. So now that you have this score goal in mind, your target score in mind, you're going to be taking test sittings of the SAT and ACT. And when this happens, I'm sure you will encounter a test or maybe more than one, where you're like, oh no, I think I did terribly. I think I need to cancel my score. So if that's you, I want you to watch this next video about should I cancel my SAT or ACT test score so you know exactly when you should and when you shouldn't.